Tim, you're on Heart of the Matter.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing all right, actually.
All right. You have a question or a comment?
Yeah. I'm not too familiar with the LDS faith in general, but I do have a guy that works for me, and he is LDS, and we were having a discussion about polygamy, and particularly what role it plays in your guys' religion, if it plays a major role at all. And I was just curious, because myself, as well as other people, I've seen stories on the news, and can't always believe what they say, and it's always nice to hear both sides of what has to be said.
Well, polygamy was what Utah was built on. And it was the practice of polygamy, the belief in polygamy, and the belief that if you didn't practice it, you could not live with God. That built Utah and at the hands of Brigham Young and other men, John Taylor and those who followed afterward. When Utah was applying for statehood, the federal government said, listen, we are not granting statehood to a territory of people that practice one of the twins of barbarism, slavery and or polygamy. And you guys practice polygamy, so you've got to stop. Well, they said, okay, we're going to stop. And they secretly practiced it. And then the federal government found out and they said, no, you really have to stop. And so they came out and they started putting people in jail. So then they came out with a manifesto in 1890 that said, okay, we're not going to do it anymore. D. Michael Quinn gives us a great history of how they said to the general, that's it, there's a no more. This manifesto says no more polygamy. And the leaders kept practicing it, kept adding on, because they fully and completely believed they needed to practice it in order to live in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. Finally, after about another 5 or 8 or 12 years, something like that, they finally came out and said, okay, it's really done now, no more. And they outlawed the practice only. But Tim, they have not outlawed, they have not said they made a mistake with it. They have not renounced the practice. It's still in Doctrine and Covenants 132. Most, generally speaking, LDS men who live active, faithful lives believe in the principle. They call it the principle. They believe that when they die, they will have more than one wife. And in fact, if I was an active LDS man and my wife died, I could have another one sealed to me for time and all eternity, so that when she dies and I die, the two wives and myself will be together in heaven forever. So polygamy is still a vital part of Mormonism. Yet, publicly, they will claim we have nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. And it's a lie. They do have things to do with it. They still believe it in their hearts. They still practice it spiritually in their temples. And they have not renounced it from their doctrine in the Doctrine and Covenants. Does that help you out?
Well, that's commendable that they're willing to stand by their beliefs. But like I said, what role exactly does that play? And I mean, morally, if you think about it, morally, some of the things that take place regarding polygamy are kind of out of whack.
Yes,
I do understand that that each person is entitled to their own faith, and each person is entitled to a free will. But, I was also understanding that, LDS, as well as, most denominations of, faith, as far as religion is concerned, they build strongly on family. That your family...
Well, they better if they're practicing polygamy.
Well, yeah, I would like... I don't know, I'm
Listen,
really confused.
Tim,
there was this...
Tim, let me just explain. From a Christian perspective, God created Adam and Eve, and it was 2 become 1, not 3 become 1 or 4 become 1. And from a man's perspective, from a liberal perspective, you can say, well, everyone has their peculiarities and live and let live. But Christians operate by this manual, like Jane said, and this manual is vitally important to both our happiness here and our eternal life with God. And the manual is not for polygamy. Now, if you want to see what happens with polygamy, go through the manual and read about the men who practiced it and see how it turned out for them in the manual. God may have permissively said, okay, you want to go down that road, go ahead. Just like he let Balaam go off and do his thing, but he didn't want it. He lets us go out and do stuff, but it's gonna result in misery. You want to see polygamy in action? Go down to southern Utah and you look in the faces of those women. You talk to them. You look at the children, and you just listen and see about what it's all about compared to a monogamous husband and wife, man and woman, married together. The differences are profound. Polygamy is an evil practice, and I could not in good conscience say, well, yeah, live and let live. They do their polygamy. It's okay. They're good people. They love families. Just not a good thing. Tim, we are absolutely out of time. I appreciate your call. Listen, tune in next week. We'll now bring in some evidences that show that this event in Joseph Smith's childhood certainly had an impact on him, one way or another, into what he wrote, said, and did. See you then.